Hi there, so I left you in the last section pondering this question here in regards to mental health. What is a good way of reducing fatigue in the workforce? So the answer to this question is in fact number 3. So having regular start to finish times is what will help reduce fatigue in the workforce. Just something important to remember, and as I say, is a question that has come up in the exam before. Before I carry on into fire safety, I just wanted to highlight as well that there's different charities available to help with mental health, and this is something that can come up in the exam too. So it might ask you something along the lines of, what does the Mind charity do? What does Samaritans do? It is a mental health charity designed to help support people. That is the answer. Carrying on then, we're going to talk about fire safety. So a fire needs 3 things to burn. It's called a fire triangle. It needs heat, fuel and oxygen. Any one of those things is removed and the fire will not burn. Fire assembly and evacuation procedures should be explained during site induction. Again, if that was not discussed at your site induction, you should be asking for the information to be repeated and ask for it again. Fires can be prevented through ensuring your work area is kept tidy and all waste is placed in the bins provided. And a permit to work has strict controls and limitations which must be followed. You must never start any job for which a permit is needed before the permit start time and before the control measures are in place. So if you have a permit to work and it's going to go out by the end of the day, but you're still going to be working, you need to stop when it stops. You can't just carry on. It's not safe. You need to leave, get a new permit, and then you can carry on at a later date. A hot work permit allows you to carry out work that could start a fire. As you can probably deduct from the name, a hot work permit is necessary in instances where you're doing work that could potentially cause a fire. So things like welding, soldering, cutting, that sort of thing, where there's a chance that sparks might happen, it'll catch fire, and then you're going to have an issue on your hands. So you need to have a hot works permit before you do anything like that. You also need to have an extinguisher close to you if you're doing any work that's going to start a fire, and check for signs of fire when you start. So you might know where all your fire extinguishers are in your building, but that is no point if you're at the other end of the building and there's none near you and you start a fire. So you need to make sure you've got the correct fire extinguisher beside you before you start work that could start a fire, and also check to make sure a fire is not started when you're finished. So I mentioned before, just there, about having the correct fire extinguisher. There are different types of fire extinguisher, and it is important for you to know the difference. A red fire extinguisher contains water. Yes, I know that all fire extinguishers are red on their canister, but there is a small label that is colour coded on each extinguisher telling you what it contains, and therefore you'll be able to associate that colour with what is good for it to put out. So a red extinguisher is water, and it can be used on anything, sort of wood, paper and textiles that causes a fire, or catches a fire I should say. Cream contains foam, so wood, paper and flammable liquid. Blue is powder, so wood, paper, flammable liquids and electrical equipment can be used. Anything of that catches fire, you can use a blue extinguisher. Black is CO2, so it's talking about flammable liquids, electrical equipment and cooking oils. Yellow is not as common when it comes to construction. It's usually the top 4 that gets discussed when it comes for the CSCS exam, but it is still like an extinguisher, so I have included it in, and it is wet chemical. So things like paper, wood and cooking oils. There's a small graph here that sort of breaks it down into different parts for you, so that you can highlight the different sections within it. What comes up in the exam usually is something along the lines of which 2 extinguishers is good for an electric fire, or what 2 is bad for an electric fire. So as you can see from here, when it comes to an electric fire, there are only 2 that can be used, and that is the powder for the blue and the black for the CO2. The reason being, the water, the foam and the wet chemical, they're too moist, there's too much moisture in them, so it'll conduct electricity. So if you're ever asked what 2 are good for an electric fire, it is powder, blue, black for the CO2. If it asks what 2 are bad for an electric fire, it's water, red, and foam, green. I have another activity here for you. So I've got a bit of an example. You are working on a site and there is wood, there's a build-up of wood on the floor and paper. Your colleague is working nearby to you using an electric panel. The circuit board is overloaded and starts to catch fire. So the fire spreads to the nearby waste. So what fire extinguisher would you use in this example? I'm going to give you a few minutes and take a break here, and then I'll come back with the answer and we'll carry on with the topic of environment. Thank you very much.